Propaganda works best when it gives you permission to stop caring. It tells you suffering isn't suffering, it's deserved. And once you believe that cruelty, it starts to feel like common sense. But here's the question. If someone breaks the law, does it equal to open season on their humanity? Psychology shows us the power of labels. Call someone an illegal alien, and you've planted a shortcut in that person's mind. Not like us, not worthy of empathy. This is dehumanization, the first step in Gordon Allport's scale of prejudice. Once you see someone as less than human, cruelty looks like justice. Have you noticed how fast empathy vanishes when they don't feel like us? Take Alligator Alcatraz, a detention camp carved into the Everglades built in just 8 days. And isn't it interesting when it's about punishment, the red tape vanishes, but when it's about solutions like housing, mental health programs, immigration reform, suddenly there are delays, debates, and endless excuses. At Alligator Alcatraz, there's no access to daylight or legal counsel. There are cages, flooded tents, swarms of insects, broken toilets, limited access to food and medical attention, horrific conditions, and even causing environmental issues just by having a facility in that area. This isn't about safety, it's psychological warfare. People aren't just detained, they're displayed. That's how propaganda works. Fear as a deterrent, cruelty as a theater. It's not a mistake, it's the point. And now the same playbook is running in Washington, D.C. The National Guard is cleaning out homeless encampments, communities where people without housing are trying to survive. The deal? Go into a shelter, accept mental health or addiction services, or go to jail. On paper, it sounds like help, but shelters are full. That's why people sleep outside of the shelters. More than 770,000 Americans are without a home, and half of them don't have access to a bed. And let's talk psychology. Even people with homes, jobs, and stability avoid mental health treatment. Why? Because acknowledging that you need help or threatens your identity. Now imagine someone that's in survival mode, wrestling with a condition like schizophrenia, addiction, or dementia, and being told to comply instantly or be arrested. How do you think that plays out? That's not help. And yet we already know that there are some approaches that really work. One of the most effective is called housing first. Permanent housing first, then the optional solutions, right? Or optional services. No handcuffs, no conditions. In Utah, people experiencing chronic homelessness dropped dramatically. Finland made it a national policy, and it's become the gold standard for ending chronic homelessness. Real help doesn't punish, it stabilizes. It saves lives, and it even saves taxpayer money. And when it comes to immigration, it's not the cages in the swamps or the surprise raids that help. Studies show that expanding legal pathways like work visas and asylum processing reduces irregular crossings. Programs that provide community support and legal counsel help people show up for court and integrate faster. And local partnerships for workforce placement turn new arrivals into taxpayers, not detainees. What's happening in Washington, D.C., that's not housing first or immigration reform. That's temporary beds, full shelters, inhumane conditions, and threats of jail. That's not compassion, that's coercion with a PR ribbon. And that's how propaganda blurs the line. It makes punishment look like help, as long as you slap the word services on it. But real help doesn't come with a badge and a threat attached to it. Housing first and creating legal pathways is stability. What's happening here is stagecraft. So why don't we hear more about the solutions? Well, because empathy doesn't drive fear-based clicks. It's like your boss saying, I'll give you your paycheck early, but only if you clean the whole office on your day off right now. Yeah, sure, the money helps, but the way that they're forcing it takes away your choice. That's not generosity, that's having leverage. If we wouldn't accept that for ourselves, why accept it for people on the street or anyone with a different background or status? Simone Sanders recently said, as a Black woman, I don't always feel safe when cops flood the streets. And what happened? Commentators like PBD laughed and minimized her concern. Here's the double standard. The same people explode at even modest gun regulations. They're taking our rights. But when someone shares a lived fear of profiling, suddenly that fear doesn't count. Think about it. If police presence your entire life meant that you were likely to be stopped, searched, or treated as a suspect just for existing, that's not a thought experiment. For millions, that's their Tuesday. So when we talk about flooding the streets with cops, we can't just measure safety by how it makes the majority feel. We have to measure it by how safe it makes everyone feel. This is cognitive dissonance in action. We validate fears to protect our in-group identity and mock the fears that challenge it. If safety only works for some, it's not safety. It's power and control. And here's a twist. Many who cheer this on are parents. They believe they're protecting their kids. And that's good, right? We want to protect our kids. But psychology tells us once fear fuses with your identity of as a good parent, a patriot, a law-abiding citizen, you'll defend cruelty if it means defending yourself. Propaganda is like an emotional pickpocket. It doesn't steal your wallet, it steals your emotions. It grabs your fear, your outrage, your love of country, and uses them to fuel someone else's agenda. Before we wrap up, let's make this real. How do you know if what you're seeing is propaganda? Here are 3 quick red flags to notice. The first one, labels instead of logic. If people get called aliens, thugs, or leeches instead of being described as humans, that's dehumanization. 2, fear over facts. If the message makes you scared first, think second, that's emotional hijacking. And 3, us versus them. If it tells you that your group is pure and theirs is dangerous, that's division by design. Propaganda doesn't always lie. Sometimes it just tells you the truth in a way that makes you hate someone. Here's what it means. Propaganda isn't always about outright lies. Sometimes it uses true facts, but it cherry picks the details, exaggerates the truth, and ignores context to create a distorted emotional reaction. I'll give you 2 examples. The first one, immigration. You see a headline and it might say something like 10 immigrants arrested for violent crimes. Factually true, but if it leaves out that the vast majority of immigrants don't commit crimes, the truth gets weaponized to make you fear all immigrants. 2, the unhoused. A news story might show footage of one person who is unhoused refusing shelter. Okay, factually true. But framed repeatedly, it implies all unhoused people don't want help, fueling the idea that they deserve punishment instead of support. So the line, propaganda doesn't always lie. Sometimes it just tells the truth in a way that makes you hate someone, means that propaganda is about framing and emotional manipulation, not just fake news. It's dangerous like that, precisely because it can feel true, making it harder to notice. And if you catch yourself in it, right? And you want to try to get out. Here are three fast ways out. Number one, pause. Ask, who benefits if I'm scared right now? Two, check. Look for another source, especially one that's outside of your bubble. And three, flip it. Imagine the same story being told about your family, someone you love, or just like. Would it still feel fair? Propaganda only works if we stop questioning it. Once you see the trick, it loses its grip. This isn't just about immigrants or people who are unhoused. It's about how fast propaganda can train us to see suffering as deserved. And once we're okay with cruelty for them, it's only a matter of time before it's aimed at us. So tell me, if safety only works for some, is it really safety or just control? If something in this episode made you pause, don't run from it. Reflect, remember, be brave, talk about it. I've added references, reflection, question, tips in the description below. Take your time with them, right? Skip any that feel too heavy. Come back later if you need to. If you found value in this episode, like, comment, subscribe so that we can keep moving forward together. Let's control forward.